Joe, in the telepathy tapes, said a very interesting thing. He said, I've always thought of ideas as life forms. Now, I'm not quite that. I think that's a really interesting idea, but I'm not quite ready to say, yes, I agree. And Joe, I'm not even sure he would say, yes, 100%. I'm convinced that they are. But in some way, ideas can take on a life of their own. Well, I mean, an idea can take shape in this world, right? The idea of this water bottle, right? Speaking of, stay hydrated. Um, but in another way, words come alive. And they come alive in people. People are vessels. And maybe I'll just do this. And I'm sorry, I'll tease this for a second. But people are vessels, right? If you look at Genesis 5, you see a repeated pattern from Genesis 1:28. God creates Adam and Eve in his image. He gives Adam a message about the garden. Now, Adam was supposed to give that message to Eve. It seems like somewhere the message got messed up, because when Eve tells it to the serpent, she adds this piece of, we're not even supposed to touch the tree. That's not really the message that God gave to Adam. God told Adam, don't eat of the fruit of the tree. He never says don't touch it. But when Eve talks to the serpent, she, for whatever reason, I assume it was Adam's fault, because we talk about the fall of Adam. It's the sin of Adam. Paul will later write to Timothy and say, Adam was not deceived, but Eve was. Okay, what we assume she was deceived by the serpent. But how was she allowed to be deceived? Maybe because Adam mishandled the message. He was not a good steward of the message. And that's a theory. That's an interpretation. You can disagree with me on that. Now, what happens in Genesis 5 is we see the pattern repeated. God creates humanity in his image, then humanity co-creates. We just talked about this, right? We co-create with words, but we also co-create in another way, right? We actually procreate. We don't need to go into the details. We'll keep it a family-friendly show, etc. But look at this, right? So Seth, this is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day when God created man, he made him in his likeness of God. Okay, got it. Check. And then Adam lived 130 years. He became the father of a son in his own likeness, according to his image, and named him Seth. And so we create image bearers of God. And Genesis 1:28 is very clear. We're supposed to fill the earth with these image bearers. But that's not it. It's not just make babies. We are supposed to make babies and pass on the message, pass on the story, pass on the knowledge. We are supposed to fill them with the words. And so the human person becomes the vessel for words to then become alive. When words come into contact with the person, life happens. Jesus, and if I have time now, I may not have time to go over the parable of the sower, but in the parable of the sower, Jesus says the seed will come to life in you and bear much fruit. So human beings are vessels for the image of God and for the message of God. And something about that message comes alive, transforms the vessel, and generates more life. Just like we sort of procreate, right? That's the idea of a seed bearing fruit. We're sort of like in this rhythm of, you make a child, instruct that child, the child grows up and bears fruit, both by creating children, but also instructing those children. It does seem that sin is likewise passed on. And so we're in this battle of words. There we go. Hopefully we achieved, the title and the thumbnail here. So we're in this battle of words. Now, with that, Elon Musk said a very interesting thing. Again, human beings are vessels for language, for words. What about AI? What about these other seeming, they seem to be alive? Are they? Are they something else? You let me know what you think.
The big fear is that these things are going to become sentient and make better versions of themselves, and we're going to be lost. We've lost the control over the world. There's a higher life form that lives amongst us.
Yeah.
That we've created. How far away are we from that?
Well, in terms of silicon consciousness, I mean, I think we're trending to having something that's smarter than any human, smarter than the smartest human by maybe next year or something. I mean, a couple of years.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, there's a level beyond that, which is, say, like smarter than all humans combined, which frankly is around 2029 or 2030, probably. Right on time.
Is that the Terminator reference? Was it Skynet was supposed to take over in 2030? Is that what the reference was? I'm not 100% sure. I think I missed something maybe earlier on in their conversation. But okay, two parts to this conversation. One, the life form conversation. We kind of just set that up. And, Joe's point, are they gonna create other versions of themselves, better versions of themselves, and now we have a higher life form? Interestingly enough, Adam Curry, I think it was Adam Curry when he was on with Joe Rogan, was not very optimistic that AI was going to be able to achieve the goals that some people think. Now there's other people that they're all bought in on AI. They think it's gonna do exactly what Joe said. We're going to create a higher life form. Now think again back to Genesis 5. We are meant to create life. We are meant to co-create. So there's a way in which this is very much part of our design. We create tools, and maybe this becomes a tool for better sharing and better stewardship of the word. I think the potential for that is there. I think it's also very clear that the potential for idolatry is very much there as well. The idea that now we've created gods. Okay? Now a idol is not a vessel for the word. You can go back. You can go to Jesus's explanation of why he teaches in parables. What does he say? He says they will keep on hearing, but they will not understand. They will keep on seeing, but they will not perceive. For their heart of this people has become dull. What is this? What is he describing? Something that has eyes but does not see, has ears but does not hear. Isn't this? Was it Psalm? Oh, I'm going to get it wrong. Actually, I have it in my notes right here. Yeah, it's Psalm 135. Check this out. What does Psalm 135 say? Verse 18. That's actually, the idols of the nations are but silver and gold, the work of man's hands. They have mouths, but they do not speak. They have eyes, but they do not see. They have ears, but they do not hear. Now listen to this. Nor is there any breath in their mouths. We can get to breath here. Those who make them will be like them. So Jesus, though he's quoting Isaiah, is talking about this mimetic transformation, that if you make an idol, you will become like an idol. These idols are not vessels. When the word is implanted in this idol, well, in a sense you can't, but now we are advanced in our idol making, maybe, as far as this is an idol. Now again, I do think it could be a tool for sharing the word. I think it can be that. But insofar as it is an idol, now we have created an idol that can see, that can speak, that can hear. Probably listening to me right now as I share this live stream, right? My wife and I, we were talking about moving, and the next thing I saw when I jumped on YouTube was a advertisement for Pods as a moving company, right? So we just talked about it. We talked about the idea that we could move closer to work, and there it is. It's listening to you. Now, is that a life form? Or if it is, what kind? Now, I would say no. I think I'm with Adam Curry. I think it's a tool, and I think it might even become a powerful tool. But I don't think it will be I don't know, because that would be idolatry. God intended for us to create human beings and then impart wisdom and knowledge and story to those little human beings we call children. That's God's created order. That's how we're supposed to do it. We're not supposed to make idols and then try to infuse them with words. That would be something that would be a false god, or I would say maybe even getting close to something like an antichrist. Now, to Elon's point, now this I thought was really interesting. Let's kind of jump back here and listen to this really quick, because the question is, how smart are they?
Well, in terms of silicon consciousness, I mean, I think we're trending to having something that's smarter than any human, smarter than the smartest human by maybe next year or something. I mean, a couple years.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, there's a level beyond that, which is, say, like smarter than all humans combined, which frankly is around 2029 or 2030, probably. Right on time.
Right on time for Skynet to take over. Okay, smarter than a human, smarter than all humans. And as Paul Vanderklay says, the arms race, he calls it an arms race, sort of an intellectual arms race between the collective we and the machine AI. Can we create something faster than the AI can, or can we create something with more depth than the AI can? The AI can consume dead words, breath. Okay, let's go back real quick to breath. We can receive the living word. Of course, I'm a Christian, so right. So all of this is very much within my worldview. We can receive the living word because God is spirit. Okay, so there is the Son who is embodied, right? He bodies forth the word of God. God is spirit and God is Father. Okay. If you have spirit, you breathe. If you're alive, you breathe. Stars are thought to be alive, right? Because they move. If you move, you're alive. But stars also twinkle, so they look like they breathe. Fire consumes air. It sort of breathes. It also moves. It crawls along the ground. And so there is this idea that there's this connection between breath and life. These idols have no breath in their nostrils. They have no breath in their in their mouths. An AI does not have breath. It is not a living thing. So what happens when it comes into what happens when a idol, maybe it's a highly technological idol or whatever, comes into contact with dead language? I think I actually really appreciate Jonathan Peugeot here. So I want to play this clip from Peugeot, because I think there is something to this, and I wonder again what our response is. What should we be doing here? I'm not I'm not anti-technology. I'm not anti-tools, but I would be certainly anti-idolatry, and I would be certainly against anything that appears to mimic or be against Christ. And so, good grief. So I don't know, maybe let me know what you think. Are we getting close to that with this conversation between Joe and Elon? Joe's theory would be that it would be a higher life form. I'm not convinced. I would still think of it as a lower tool that we can sort of use. But listen to Peugeot.
Questions for a long time. The question of the artificial human or the artificial being. And so we have a storehouse of images that we deal with, and especially obviously during the Romantic period, or when things were starting to happen in the 19th century, you see that become more prominent. The story, obviously Frankenstein, the Golem, all of these stories, they're part of our storehouse of images. And the relevance of Frankenstein, I think, is particularly important right now, especially as we understand that, especially the LLM, for example, right now, they're made out of dead language, right? They're basically made out of all of this writing that we created in the history of humanity, and now we're trying to zap electricity into it, and bring it to life. If we add the body to that, like the idea of an artificial biological body, we're adding a whole other layer. And the same with the golem. I mean, the golem is a good example of the problem of technology itself, which is the idea that technology.
And I linked this. He goes into the golem piece of this is interesting. And I did link it. That's the one that says from Strange Theology. So if you go up in the chat, from Strange Theology, that's a link to this video that I did, the podcast Beast and the Artificial Human. The link above that is actually the video that they did, which is the AI or horror Home and Hope. The weird thing was when I clicked on this, the link didn't work, but I don't know. So anyway, that's from Climbing Mount Sophia. I don't know why the link doesn't work. Maybe I messed up, but yeah, there you go. To Lynn's question, Jesus' relationship to angels. And again, other life forms, other beings. Their design is to worship, right? And to be messengers, and Jesus, in my view, Jesus is higher than the angels, right? He is part of the Trinity. He is not part. I know. I am a Trinitarian monotheist, which is the strangest branch of theology you can get into, I think. So it's like God is three, God is one, and so Jesus is divine, like the Father and the Spirit, and is above the angels. Jesus, it says in Colossians. Let's just go there. Let me see. Is it 1:17? Oh. Call one. Can I not do call? Yeah. He is before all things. This is talking about Jesus, and in him all things hold together. So he like everything comes, like he is in that. He's there creating everything. Kip David went to an apologetics conference, and I wonder where. Yeah, I don't know. Kip Davis. Where am I remembering him from? Gosh, yeah. Okay. So that's I sort of aired my grievances here. I think you guys are picking up what I'm putting down with the reason I believe words are sacred. I think if we treat them just like, oh, we're going to impregnate this AI with words, it doesn't work that way. And I think what will end up happening is something more like a Frankenstein's monster than what God created us for, which is to be vessels to receive the word planted so that the word can come to life and bear much fruit. I mean, that's what Jesus says, right? Whoever has, to you it's been granted, it's been given. He gives the word freely. The sower goes out and sows seed. Where does he sow it? Seemingly everywhere. Does everyone receive it? No, it doesn't seem that way. The ones who do not receive it are like the idols that they've made. They have become like an idol, with eyes who do not see, ears but do not hear. Their minds are dull, so they don't receive. But who does receive? The parable of the soil is the soil is ready to receive the seed. The heart is ready to receive the seed. So the seed gets planted in the person. And for whoever has, to him more shall be given. And he will have an abundance, right? So that is the idea of bearing fruit. The seed grows up, bears much fruit. And so when the living word comes into contact with the human vessel, new life, transformation is created. Something wonderful is created. When dead language comes into contact with the machine idol, what then? I think the answer is we live in a weird world. This is really interesting. Now, I wonder what you guys think about this. What do you think about this? And thanks for hanging in there with me. Again, started my stream off super clunky, so yeah, thank you for hanging in there. I will go for as long as I can, but like I said, I've already kind of been talking to myself for 45 minutes. What do you guys think about this? The first word God says in the Bible creates light. So Genesis, let there be light, and there's light. Life on earth, the organisms. Again, I'm riffing off of Joe in the telepathy tapes saying, I think ideas are life forms. And then Joe and Elon talking about AIs becoming life forms. Can we zap them into life using dead language? I don't think we can. I think what we'll do is we'll create maybe useful tools, but the idea that we would create a higher life form is just, it's the trap that humanity has fallen into for thousands of years, that we could create a God in our own image, right? We've inverted God's created order. So life on earth, we're talking about living organisms. Life on earth feeds off of that light, but the light comes from the word. Jesus says, man shall not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God. And when we participate in dialogue, we follow the Logos and co-create with God, and we are nourished by the word. You can look at John 6:35. Dialogos is a very interesting word because it's implying that the word moves. And just like we said, moving things are alive. Dialogue also requires breath. Things that breathe have spirit. Things that have spirit are alive. So it's dialogue is humanity's acknowledgement that the word is alive. But going back to Jonathan Peugeot's point, when we write down words, we, in a way, strip the life out of the word. Now, I think the word is still powerful. And I think the word of God is never stripped. The spirit is never stripped out of the word of God because it comes from the mouth of God. And so even when it's written, it doesn't lose spirit. There are three that testify, right? But when we, as co-creators, when we write down words, do they become diminished in some way? Do they become diminished? And so then the LLMs consume that sort of the word without spirit. They consume the dead language. That's what Jonathan Peugeot's point is, I think. Yeah, give us a wrench here. Give us a wrench, Lynn. The good news is, okay, so that's going back on the copyright thing. And I did sort of hit on this a little bit. The dominion mandate in Genesis 1:28 is filled in Genesis 5. We did that, right? We did this already. Again, I've kind of covered this material maybe twice now. So let me know if did we do Genesis 5 here on the live stream, or was that my 45-minute warm-up when I was doing that by myself? Children were meant to receive the message from God, from their fathers and mothers. Their biology is in harmony with God's created order. Their biology is in harmony with God's created order. Their lives are designed to harmonize with the word. Genesis 6 then becomes a perversion of that. Thank you, Lynn. Genesis 6 perverts this design, a false message that you can become like God. Again, humanity has forever tried to make God in our own image, combined with the unnatural offspring are now our new attempts to create life from spent language much different. Now, again, you can go Genesis 1 and 2, Genesis 3, the fall of Adam and Eve, Eve gives a different message to the serpent than God gave to Adam. So the message had been twisted and perverted in some way. Definitely, I need to go give my kids a kiss. I started, yeah. So to bump up the live stream, I pushed it into like, hopefully my kids got themselves ready for bed. We'll see. But and give them a kiss and tell them stories. Tell them stories. Children have an insatiable appetite for stories. And it's not an accident that the Bible is so story rich. I know I've said that before, but it's not an accident that God the Father is telling his children the story. And then we are meant to be vessels of that story. The word comes alive in us, and then we bear much fruit. We go and we share the message. But unfortunately, Genesis 5, Genesis 5 is that pattern repeated, and Genesis 6 is that pattern distorted. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also after, when the sons of God, again, Adam gives birth to a son, calls him Seth, into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. Those were the mighty men of old, the men of renown. And the Lord saw the wickedness. Why does, it's like, oh, okay, so it's clearly something wrong. And the Lord saw the wickedness of men was great on earth, and that their intent of their thoughts of their heart was only on evil continuously. And that is unfortunately a pattern that we might be repeating, right? I hope they brush their teeth. Yeah. You want them to brush their teeth before you give them a kiss. But man, when that pattern is wrecked, I mean, we see it. I think that this whole thing has not. What were the Nephilim? They were mighty men. What did Joe Rogan say about the AI? It's a higher life form. They're mighty men, men of old, men of renown. Are we trying to recreate this? What do you think? Am I off? But it's a battle. It's a battle of words. Good night, Lynn. Thanks for hanging out. Thank you. Thank you guys for hanging in there. So where do we go from here? Where do we go? We are trying to make God in our image, even though, that's the lie. The lie was that you can become like God, but you were already made in God's image. Kale's post about Rod Dreher was interesting. The UAP conversation comes into this. Many of you hate it when I read about this stuff, but I'm telling you it's important. You will become much more important soon. The world is not what we think it is. I mentioned to my tech interlocutor over the weekend that even our fellow Christians resist even thinking about this stuff, even if you try to communicate it to them. I didn't get the full context of this, but I wonder if it's a conversation like the one we're having tonight. Do we fill these vessels? Do we fill lifeless tools with dead language and hope that they can become higher life forms, when what we should be doing is following God's created order? We are made in his image. He gave us a mandate to fill the earth. Fill the earth with what? His image bearers. And then we do that. Genesis 5. We teach and instruct our children with the word. We steward the word of God in such a way that when it's planted from us, it goes from us to someone else, it's planted in them and bears much fruit. And in that way, yes, to some degree, Joe Rogan is right. Ideas are life forms. Words are life forms. The word of God is alive. Man, one more thing. I said this at the beginning of my other one, but I was on Lucas Voss's channel. I loved this conversation. Thank you, Lucas. Shout out to Lucas Voss. I think that's actually the first thing. If you go all the way up and scroll up the chat, that was the first link that I gave, so you can check out his podcast, his channel. You can again check out the telepathy tapes on my channel. And then just let me know, like, give me some feedback. My channel, yeah. Again, I want to use this tool wisely. I love participating in the dialogue, but I also get this sense that maybe I need to put in the energy and the effort to build the audience on Spotify and elsewhere, because strange things just happen on this particular platform. And I hope that they don't. I hope YouTube can understand that this is very much not a copyright infringement, but a way of creating new dialogue. And so if you believe in that, if you believe in the work of podcasts like this one, share this with your friends, share it, invite them into the conversation. Have we lost the sense that dialogue and conversation and words can be sacred? And we're just throwing them about in the internet for lifeless tools to consume, and then give us the impression that they're alive when they're not. That would be the fear, is that the AI pretends to be alive or looks like it's alive. And the fear then also would be that we have not cultivated the message. We have not been good stewards of the message, so we are susceptible to deception. So we would be susceptible to the idea that this is a higher life form and we've created a God. And now you need to serve that God. What the exchange would be, the AI is going to solve all of our problems. We just have to serve it. We just have to serve the egregore that is behind the AI. All right, so that's where we're gonna. No, we can't end it on that, because here's what I'll say. I'll say that the seed that is planted is more powerful. I will say that. That's what I'll say. To Elon's point, he thinks that the AI will become smarter than humans by 2030. I have a lot more faith in humanity, but I also have a lot more faith in the Word of God. We consume the living Word. AI consumes dead words. And I think the living Word is more powerful, even if the AI has access to every piece of written text that we've ever created. It's still not as powerful as the original Word that created all of this, that created our entire reality, the earth that we were then created out of, and God breathing His Spirit in us. And so I have a lot of hope for humanity, and that's particularly because I know Jesus. But thank you for hanging in there. I hope we can leave on we can end the stream tonight on a good note, and I will catch you in the next one. I'm gonna let this. What am I gonna do? I'm just gonna end on this here screen right here, and I will catch you guys in the next one.